Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickerson from Dubbo Regional Council.
For the time at 14 minutes away from 8 and at 14 to 8 on a Monday morning, we say good morning to Dubbo Mayor Matthew Dickerson. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Kerry. And yes, I am old enough. Thank you for asking.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, you're not like me though, son. I'm getting too old. I tell you. Now listen, okay, we'll start off with a bit of controversy this morning.
Sure.
Around Australia Day next year.
Well, Australia Day this year, we made a couple of subtle changes to our program. One of those changes was that the Wellington version of the ceremony we held as a twilight event. So we held that the evening before on the 25th of January, and then in Dubbo we held the event on the 26th. Now there was a bit of a technicality there. We actually had a bit of an argument with the Department of Home Affairs. We wanted to hold both events on the 25th, but we weren't allowed to for the Dubbo one. We could only do it for the Wellington one. I won't bore you with the details of all of that discussion we had, but they've changed the rules. So for 2024, we could actually hold both ceremonies on the 25th, or in fact, you've got a window of 6 days before and 6 days after the 26th where you can hold the ceremony. So councillors started that discussion at our committee meetings last week. At this stage, but it hasn't been fully resolved by council yet. That will happen in 2 weeks' time at our next council meeting. At this stage, we recommended that you have the Wellington Australia Day ceremony on the 25th again at a 6:30 p.m. event, and then the Dubbo event on the actual day. But it was a tight vote. It was 5-4, Kerry, for the original vote for that. And then after another resolution, a few changes, it ended up being 7-2. So that's interesting. It might change a bit over the next 2 weeks. Councillors are getting a bit of feedback from the community. So in 2 weeks' time at the council meeting, who knows what the final decision will be.
Yeah. Now, okay, next one. What's this competition thing that you held?
Well, we've got some rhinos around the town. You may have remembered many years ago there were rhinos throughout the whole region where Taronga Zoo, both Dubbo and Sydney versions of those zoo, had a promotion with various rhinos. And we kept a few around Dubbo. We've got them as you come into the entrance to Dubbo and a few around the city itself. But they're looking a bit tired and a bit old. So we put out a competition amongst the school kids in Dubbo to do a new design for the rhinos. And I was lucky enough to be on the judging panel with all my artistic skills and background, Kerry, of course. Lucky there were some people on the committee, on the judging panel, who had a few more artistic talents than myself. And
Don't tell me lies, Matthew.
And we got to see all the designs that were entered by the kids, and they were fantastic. It was actually a really tough job to pick out the new designs. There'll be 3 of those designs that will put on paper by the school kids that they will then engage artists who will actually transfer from the designs on the kids put on paper onto the actual rhinos themselves. So that's a pretty exciting project. So keep an eye out for that. That'll take a few months before that comes to fruition. But those designs, I was pretty impressed with the designs that I saw, put it that way.
Now, expansion of renewable energy in Dubbo.
Well, this is a really exciting one. And again, maybe a little bit controversial. I'm a big fan of renewables, and I think this is has the potential, Kerry, to transform Wellington absolutely. It'll be a huge boost for Dubbo's economy, but because most of this renewable energy activity is around Wellington, that'll be a huge boost for their economy. At the moment, the Central West Orana Renewable Energy Zone is 3 gigawatts in size, so that's the maximum size you'll be able to go to with that particular area. But it's been going well. There's a lot of good feedback from proponents in the area. And so the state government is saying, well, in stage 1, we want to increase that straight away to 4.5 gigawatts. But by stage 2, which is out to 2038, then they want it to go to 6 gigawatts in size. Now, that comes with about $10 billion worth of private investment. They're estimating 5,000 jobs. Our estimation is actually higher than that. But for the next 15 years, you're going to see a huge amount of construction around that Wellington area. And this also goes into the Mudgee and Coonabarabran areas as well, those 2 local government areas. So it's a huge potential for an injection into the economy. And I actually think, Kerry, this will be transformational for Wellington.
Right. Okay, now just finally this morning, you're in Canberra last week, was it? And you were talking to the Minister about the new process for grants.
This is actually a really good program. I was in Canberra last week, met with Jenny McAllister, who's the Minister or Assistant Minister for Climate Change and Energy, but I had a meeting also with Catherine King, who's the Minister for Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development and Local Government. One of the bits of feedback that she'd had was that it was difficult sometimes for councils to justify the cost of all the information they needed to put a grant application in. So the feedback that Catherine was getting was that some councils chose not to put a grant application in because, and it seems ridiculous, Kerry, but because they couldn't afford to put a grant application in. So they've changed the process now, and we've got a grant in under this new program where you put an expression of interest in first, which was just a brief overview of the project. Once the staff that are going to be judging this particular grant application look at that, they can then give a council a green light or a red light. If you get a red light, don't waste any more money on it. It's not going to be successful. If you get a green light, it doesn't mean you'll definitely get the application approved, but it's worthwhile spending the extra money on doing a full-blown application because you've got a pretty good chance that you'll get it through if everything else stacks up. So I really like that idea that it means it's much easier for councils, in particular smaller councils, to have a crack at a lot of those grants.
Good stuff. Thank you, sir, for your time. Have a good week.
Always my pleasure, Kerry. Thank you.
Catch up, mate.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.